Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Voices of Mars. This is the first episode of, I don't even know what to call it yet. This is some kind of discussion. We're actually going to talk about the old age question. Airbrush versus Handbrush. Is it cheating? Now today with our special guest,
Kirsten,
and we're going to discuss a little bit about Airbrush versus Handbrush. But you'll see that my setting is a little different. There's so many windows open. There's her picture or her video, my video, and the picture of a MacLeod model of the Depleted from Jacob Lynch's crew. And also there's me painting in the background. Now this is to prove a certain point about airbrushing versus handbrush. So I'm playing the video on a real-time basis, so there's no speeding up whatsoever, as you can see it from the timeline there of the video. It is going for about 12 minutes, and we're going to have a conversation about airbrush and handbrush at the same time. It sounds complicated, but it's not. So hopefully, you know, I'll make the point at the end towards the end of the video when I'm finishing up on the painting part. But now, while we're killing time, I guess we're talking to Kirsten here about her wargaming history and whatever that she does. Now my email popped up that I might have to block that. So, welcome to the show. How did you start it on wargaming, and when did you start?
I started a couple months before the 1.5 came out.
Okay.
And I started off because I have a brother that's a gamer. And of course he said, hey, you gotta buy this box and get to this game. And so of course I bought one army and I started painting, and I fell in love with the actual figures of MacLeod. And it's been going great since. It's the only game I play.
It is the game that I play right now too. I've been playing for about 2 years probably, but I had a break here and there. But MacLeod is a good game to start because it's easy starting point. But don't let that fool you, because it's a trap. You're not going to be enough with just buying one crew. You're going to end up collecting at least a whole faction.
If not more.
If not more, yes.
Yeah.
Now, so you only play MacLeod, but what is the aspect of the hobby that you like the most?
I actually really enjoy painting, obviously, since I'm here to talk about painting. And people. MacLeod has a great community of people, and even the hobby of miniature painting has a great community. And that's wonderful. It draws you in. It makes you happy to learn, happy to talk. I think people can talk painting for hours.
Well, I got to know you from a social media community of MacLeod, which is a weird place where your sister-in-law is the leader of the group, right? Or
yeah.
the head honcho, basically. She
Yeah,
created the
she's
group
the
and
mistress.
started up. Yep. And I noticed your model, the Depleted, that it looks really nice, and then I asked about how you painted it, and it came out pretty interesting because, I mean, I met a couple of people that does your style of painting. I've never heard of them actually putting it out like, 30 plus layers on certain areas. Which I don't think it's overkill, but damn, that's a lot of layers.
You have to remember the way I paint, though. A layer is just a thin wash, so it's not as time-consuming or as scary as it sounds.
Yes, because well, why don't you explain a little bit about your style of painting, because some people might not do washes.
All right, I call it watercolor painting because that's what it feels like I'm doing. What it is I water down my paints to almost a water, a tinted water. And I do layer and layer and layer, and I build up the layers. So I start with the base of a white primer, and I build up the shadows. So I might do a slight base coat of a certain color, and then build on that.
And these base coats are usually lighter color, and
definitely it leads you to a more pastel color. The whole model will be a more muted. It won't give you that really bright, vibrant color unless you do 30 plus layers.
Okay, so during our conversations on Facebook, I told you that you're painting backwards.
Yeah.
Because most people don't paint that way, and I mean, it's not confusing. I can get the sense of it, but essentially you're painting backwards, and obviously I assume that your problem is also going to be backwards than most people, because most people have problems with highlighting white.
No, not an issue. My biggest problem actually is highlighting black and getting black to work, because my figures are actually so muted that you can't use straight black. So you have to build your black up, and building black up is a chore for sure, and then highlighting it.
It's like you're toning it all the way down, and then you got to bring it up back a little bit.
Right, and that's quite the complication.
And is this a style that you develop by yourself through like art classes at school, or?
Well, I do have an art background, and I did take a bunch of watercolor classes. But actually, what happened is the gentleman who was teaching me, our local painter, Mike Cain, and he was teaching me to do it, and he kept saying, "Kirsten, thin down your paints, thin down your paints." And so, of course, I took it to the extreme, and I liked it. So I continued with it, and mentally, the idea of starting dark and going light doesn't work for me. I don't understand why you would do that. It seems like that would add too many coats and be a bigger paint job. So the idea of light to dark made more sense to me. So I kind of just went with it. I've never seen anybody else paint like it. All my friends are thinking I'm nuts, but it works, and it's best.
Yeah, and that is the best way of painting. Your way is always the correct way.
Right.
Did it like your transition from 2D to 3D miniatures, basically, how hard was that to translate over?
Not hard at all. Again, the idea is it's a white canvas, and when I paint, you start, background first to foreground, so I start with the face, work my way out, and because I'm doing light colors, it just flows just like you would if you were painting a canvas.
And you mentioned white canvas. That means I'm assuming that you always prime white on this.
Always. It's always white. I originally started with black, but obviously that wouldn't work. I had to use thicker paint. And again, that was the opposite style than what I was going and comfortable with.
Now, it's just, and during our conversation, it is mind-boggling. And then you mentioned that you do like 30 plus layers. Like, why don't you describe a little bit on what the process for the depleted model here on the right side?
Okay, the depleted model started off with the flesh coat base, which actually in itself is quite a few layers to build up to the certain color that I wanted the opacity to be the correct color. And of course, I did the wash to get the height to get the shadows in, and then I slowly added the flesh tone to the purple tone and built it all the way down. Each step, you probably add at least 10 layers of color back and forth. So the regular flesh to the flesh and purple, back and forth, and then layering on top the more purple to purple black.
And the whole process takes how long usually?
That depleted model actually took me 2.5 hours, give or take. I got 3
that is
models
pretty
done
quick.
that day.
Yeah, that is pretty quick with washes. 2.5.
Well, it's a very simple model.
It is a very simple model. That's why I choose this model to compare it, using an airbrush. And I mean, I did.
You cheated.
That's why we have this conversation. Now, is that what your take is on airbrush versus handbrush? Do you think that airbrush is cheating?
I don't know. Actually, I've never used an airbrush, so I have no reference point. I do feel that it is kind of cheating, just because you achieve what I've worked so hard to get, so I just kind of want to strangle you. It's like, ah!
Look, I spent hours on this, and you said you can do this in X amount of minutes.
Right, and I guess for those that actually work really hard, it's kind of a slap in the face to say, I did it this many times. But it's also awesome. I mean, if I had an airbrush, I'm sure I'd be using it the same way, and I wouldn't feel cheating.
But we've already had a conversation prior to recording this that the purpose of the video wasn't to slap someone in the face regarding how many hours they spent.
No. I'm just...
She's teasing me.
It's, a general opinion, necessarily mine. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I think it's just a great media to work with. And if you have that option, why not use it to the best of your abilities? If you can make a model wonderful and only spend 12 minutes on it, then why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's especially great for... I mean, you're only a Malifaux player, but let's say if you play 40k and you have a Space Marine army, it works really, really fast, especially, there's a lot of flat surfaces, and you can still... I had a video regarding the Zenithal priming or the Zenithal painting that you can use to quickly base coat everything and have first and second highlight and shadow at the same time. And you can probably do like 10 models base coated all the way to highlight without the details, probably in less than half an hour for 10. So
yeah, I can't imagine painting 30 layers on 10 models at once and then doing it to 10 times 10. I couldn't do it.
So I guess in a way that it is kind of cheating, right?
Right? Like, in a way. I mean, it's a great cheat. I mean, it's one of those things where, you're a gamer and you're playing, SimCity and you make it to where you're a billionaire. Like, why wouldn't you do that to make the best thing?
Now, my take on this whole entire thing, that the reason why I'm actually creating this video. Well, if you see on the background here on the video, I pretty much finished already, but I wanted to add some highlights on the eyes because they are depleted and their eyes are supposed to be kind of glowy from brilliance. So, which is perfect timing for me because I wanted to make a point of airbrushing versus handbrush, if it is cheating or not. I don't think it's cheating.
That's because you did it.
Kirsten mentioned that it is just another media, just another tool. If I have to make an analogy, it'll be like using a scientific calculator versus using an abacus versus using your fingers. If you break that down, if you didn't have a regular hand brush, that means every miniature painter will be stuck doing finger painting, because that's what cavemen did during that time of painting. And then we moved to brushes, which makes pointy edge where you can actually brush things. And then airbrush basically just, it's like blowing paint through a tiny straw.
But in that thought process, that means that hand brushing will actually become obsolete.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because I will always come back. If you notice on the video, I come back with the hand brush to go into details because we're working with 32 mil models. It's almost impossible to do everything to full 100% with airbrush. So that's why I don't think it's cheating. And not to mention that the first time that you see a scientific calculator with all the buttons, if you've never seen a scientific calculator, would you know how to use it? It's a tool that you have to master, right?
Right, and airbrush is not easy. I mean, considering the different sprays, and you have to figure out how far away you have to paint. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, and then there's the PSI, the pressure that you have to set up, and then I'm still sort of new. I've been airbrushing for about a year and a half now.
And what airbrush do you use?
I use Badger airbrush. The one that I use predominantly on this video is the Badger Patriot 105. And then to go on the OSL part of the eyes, I did it with the Sotar 2020, which is Badger as well.
If you were going to get a brand new painter, what would you suggest they do?
For airbrush, it's probably the Badger 105. If you're just going to be base coating and do simple, I guess, blending, the Badger 105 is a good choice. It's still my workforce up until today. See, you wanted to cheat now.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not use all the tools at hand? Why wouldn't you make something you have easier and yet better?
So my entire point of this is, don't call it cheating, because it's just a more efficient way of painting certain areas of the model, because I will never be able to do eyes with an airbrush unless I'm working with a gigantic canvas, obviously.
Right.
And for those of you guys that want to get started with airbrushing, there's a lot of cheaper options. Like if you go on eBay, you'll see probably like $60 startup kits. I haven't tested the quality of those airbrush, but what you have to pay attention is what size of the needle of the airbrush, and it's not that expensive that I mean, if you're buying a box of Malifaux for $40 usually, right, retail?
40 to 50.
Yeah, and then if you add an extra booster pack, like the newer booster pack, that's how much the whole
15.
that's how much the whole kit would probably cost. That's for the cheap China ones. Badger has pretty good quality. I mean, no, Badger has excellent quality. I mean,
The best quality ever.
I've been using Badger, and I've been using only Badger, and so I don't have anything to compare to. And so far, it's been working.
Me, I get it. You use it.
Oh, I see what you did there. But I had my point out that it's not cheating, and I don't, if you guys that's watching this still think that it's cheating, I can't change your mind. If you hate airbrushing, go ahead, stay with hand brushing, because I still do. I love my classic hand brushing because I still need the details. But when it comes to blending, when it comes to base coating, I'm beginning to start being dependent on my airbrush. I hate it because I want to stay, being a classical miniature painter with just all brush, hand brush.
Right.
So if you have a final take on this, I guess, discussion, what would you say?
To use Badger when you're airbrushing. And actually, it's not cheating. It's just another tool in your toolbox, and why not use it? I mean, and don't judge others for using it. It's just another tool.
I like it. It's short, simple. Now, what if there is 10 years from now, there's a different type of brush? I'm pretty sure this discussion would come up again, don't you think?
Yeah, no, it's going to come up no matter what. I mean, anytime something's new and people have to deal with change, there's going to be a discussion and there's going to be a cheat.
Yeah, like all you gotta do is just, I don't know, dip your miniature into like a bucket of paint, and then it comes out all painted, ready.
Well, they do have a dip system. A painting dip, I mean, technically that is already out there, and that is cheating.
Yeah, but you're actually just adding a wash, like a blown up wash, and adding shadow, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, but, maybe there's a dipping process where you actually, everything, like, this whole entire thing is done.
It's like sprinkles to chicken.
Oh my god. Don't start on that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Kirsten, for actually being a guest on one of these discussions. I hope that I'm going to expand the series into something else, because I don't even know what to call this discussion series yet. If you guys can come up with a name, or if you guys have any comments regarding airbrush versus handbrush, please comment down below, because I really want to know, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's cheating? Do you guys think it's just another tool? Which side are you on? If there's a third side, please let me know. If there's a fourth side, please let us know. Thank you again, Kirsten, for coming. And hopefully we'll have more guests, and hopefully Kirsten can come back again too later.
Definitely.
Bye, guys.